Righty. So, welcome everybody. Um, Glad you guys are here. Glad you can make it to our stress workshop today. For those of you I have not met, my name is Steve Davis. I am a naturopathic doctor. I specialize in irritable bowel through functional medicine. I have a clinic in Lexington, Kentucky, where I see probably about half of my clientele. For the remainder of you, I have a relationship with online where we meet virtually and we work virtually to give you the access to healthcare that you need. And so uh, Today in our stress workshop, we're really talking about managing stress in modern life. We live in an era of unprecedented connectivity and demands that lead what many call the stress epidemic, where we have this digital overwhelm and work-life balance that has become really a constant companion for everybody, from our screens that we're constantly on, the stress level that we're on from friends, family, work, just different things that were going on in our life. And so, really understanding stress is crucial because it helps to impact our longevity, it helps to impact the quality of our life, and it plays a role in about 80% of chronic diseases. And so, this epidemic of stress is really has economic and social costs that are really staggering. And so in this workshop, we're going to explore the different patterns. We're going to identify the personal stress types that you might be under, and then provide a practical solution or strategies to help you thrive in today's fast-paced world. How does that all sound? Perfect. Okay, so really, we're going to take a look at stress and its connection to your body. We're going to look at that through a couple of different places here. Number one, we're going to look at it through the nervous system and really seeing how stress can trigger your sympathetic nervous system, which really is there in place to prepare your body for fight or flight, right? You're walking through the woods, and which is supposed to be really calm and really tranquil, and a bear jumps out. Adrenaline kicks in, cortisol kicks in, and its job is to get you away from that bear, right? You want to run as fast as you can. You want to be able to stand up and fight. Yeah, maybe not stand up and fight, but get out of there fast, right? It's not intended to be there constantly. Okay. We want to take a look at hormonal changes that are going to happen because of stress, right? There's this activation that leads to hormone changes. And in those hormone changes, including the release of cortisol, adrenaline, which will then affect how all the different other hormones, not just sex hormones, but all the other hormones in your body um, can be activated or suppressed due to this release of cortisol. And then we want to look at your immune system and see how prolonged stress can really suppress your immune system function, makes it so that you're more susceptible to getting sick. It also can make it harder for you to heal from different wounds or different inflammatory processes that are going on in your body. Okay. And so while short-term stress can have some benefits, chronic stress really poses significant danger to our health. And understanding the connection is really the key to managing stress effectively and maintaining our overall health. Okay. We touched about it in a few seconds ago, but right now I want to introduce you guys to cortisol. Okay. So cortisol is our main stress hormone, right? It's made in your adrenal glands, which sit right on top of your kidneys. They're like little glands about that big, sit on top of your kidneys. They make a bunch of different hormones. Cortisol is one of them. And like I said, this gives you the energy to run from the bear, right? And we have an early morning spike, as you can see on this picture right here. Really, about 30 minutes to 2 hours after you wake up is when that spike hits. And so the whole purpose of it is to help you wake up in the morning. And to be alert to get your day going. And then gradually throughout the day, that cortisol is intended to slow down and diminish. So in the afternoon, things are calming down to uh, really prepare yourself for the evening. And your lowest point is typically going to be right around midnight, right? That's why you don't necessarily need to be awake after midnight. Our bodies are not intended to stay awake late into the evening. And so your cortisol reaches its lowest point around midnight, and then it starts to rise again in the early morning hours. Now, cortisol produced in the adrenal glands is regulated by something called the HPA axis. It stands for hypothalamus, which is in your brain, pituitary, which is also in your brain. That's the master gland, and your adrenals. Okay, and this plays a crucial role in the stress response system, and it can impact your metabolism, and it helps us to adapt to different stressors. But understanding the natural rhythm, some might have heard of it as called the circadian rhythm, is essential for managing stress effectively. Okay. So, what we really want to look at is what happens to our body when stress becomes chronic, right? There are different types of cortisol patterns that we're going to see, and cortisol can get mixed up because of excess stress. And when that happens, we can see sleep disturbances, slow down or speed up some digestion. You can see different things in the blood pressure, and you might feel wired or anxious or burned out. So, let's take a look at the different patterns that we see and how they progress through over time. So this first picture you see in the corner of your screen, really the blue line is what is considered a natural normal cortisol pattern. You'll see that early in the morning, you get a nice big spike, and then slowly throughout the remainder of the day, it tapers off into the evening. Well, some people will have this first pattern, which is the red line, where you have this accelerated release of cortisol in the morning. And quite often, that's going to be the person who wakes up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And it feels like it's because they had to go to the bathroom. And really, it's the cortisol that woke them up. And then they're able to, they get this early morning spike where they feel energized. And then quickly throughout the day, things start to taper off and they kind of fall into a normal pattern after that. But quite often, because of the lack of sleep, they're tired and worn out throughout the day. The next one we see here is this early morning accelerated release of cortisol, but then they stay elevated throughout the day. You could see the difference between the red and the blue line there, where they stay wired throughout the entire day and they have a hard time going to sleep at night. The third pattern we see is a more fatigued response in the morning where they don't get that natural spike in the morning of cortisol and they have a hard time waking up, hard time getting motivated. And then throughout the rest of the day into the evening, they start to get this rise in their cortisol pattern. And they might just refer to themselves as maybe a night person, but then also have a hard time going to sleep. And then it all repeats again the next morning. And really, rather than being a night person, which they haven't really always been. It's more of a short-term thing, last couple months, last couple years, where they become this night person, where all of a sudden, all their energy is at night and they're drained, fatigued, worn out in the morning, have lack of motivation. Okay. And then the last one that we see here is just this flat line across the bottom. And many of you know from watching TV that a flat line is not a good thing, especially in cardiovascular issues, things with your heart. But in your hormones, it's not a good thing either, where you just don't have any cortisol response. And really, this is an adrenal crisis type thing, adrenal fatigue that's really set in to where you have zero cortisol going throughout your system. And so we want to explore the different patterns that we have here and help you to understand why each of them happen, how they happen, and what we can do to really fix those and address those moving forward. But when we really want to understand more of what your body is going through as these different stress responses happen. So when stress becomes chronic, we really see big changes in our cardiovascular, we see them in our digestion, and we see them in our sleep patterns. Okay. And so when cortisol gets mixed up with cardiovascular, you can end up feeling wired, burnt out, blood pressure rising, digestion slows, you get anxious. Those are a lot of the first things that you're going to start to see. When it affects your digestion, you're going to start to see things that can cause or exacerbate digestive issues or irritable bowel or ulcers or Crohn's or different things like that that happen because of a stress response. And then chronic stress can often lead to insomnia or disrupted sleep patterns. And so when stress becomes chronic, it is something that's going to disrupt your natural cortisol pattern, right? It's going to affect that blue wave that we saw and lead to one of these red waves that we were looking at. And so it leads to dysfunction in the feedback loop between between melatonin and cortisol. Melatonin is your sleep hormone. And this can have far-reaching effects on other major body systems. And so recognizing the signs of overload is really crucial for intervention. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit further. We've talked about how we can have high cortisol levels and low cortisol levels. Let's look at a little bit of what each of these cortisol patterns look like when our body is under this stress for short term, middle term, long term. Okay. The first one we look at is a hypercortisol state, or what somebody might call overstressed, or is when stress just takes over your body. Okay. So when this happens, you really have this constant alertness, right? You're wired, but you're tired. You're unable to relax, even though you're exhausted. That's really what this constant alertness looks like. Or for some people, this excess cortisol can lead to an increase in fat storage, and which really could add to weight, especially around the midsection of your body. Again, disturbances can happen, and that's because the high cortisol levels make it difficult to either fall asleep or stay asleep throughout the night. And quite often, I'll encourage my clients to get like an Aura ring or wear their watch to bed to really help evaluate what their sleep looks like. Okay. And then people may also find themselves overreacting to minor stressors, or feel like they're constantly on edge. And this is kind of when that kid or your child comes up to you, gives you a hug, and almost startles you a little bit. And you have an overreaction to the fact that the kid came up and gave you a hug. And really, they're just looking for a little love, right? And so a hypercortisol state is really characterized by consistently high levels of stress or cortisol in your body. And this can significantly impact your daily and your long-term health uh, conditions. It's also associated with an increased risk of hypertension or high blood pressure, blood sugar imbalances, whether low or high. Most of the time, it's a high blood sugar because of the chronic inflammation that accompanies it. Ready? Next, we're going to be looking at hypocortisol state, or the lower end of cortisol, where we don't have any. That's that flat line when you're really burnt out. Okay. And so your body feels drained. You have this chronic fatigue that happens where there's this persistent exhaustion that really doesn't improve with rest or anything like that. Then you have this low stress tolerance. Really, it's difficult to cope with things, even minor stressors. They cause you to overreact, right? Then we can look at whether or not you get a weakened immune system. This is also one of those key traits. And it causes, like we said before, an increased susceptibility to different infections, and it slows down your recovery process when you do get sick. Whether a common cold can last 2 to 3 days, now it's taking you a week to get over it, right? It's because cortisol is affecting your immune system. A lot of people can end up with brain fog or cognitive fog, and this makes it difficult to concentrate, to make decisions. You can walk into a room constantly and forget why you were in there. You can't remember conversations that you had yesterday. You have a hard time with word finding. And that's really what brain fog looks like. And then for many of you people, it's going to be emotional sensitivity. And this is that heightened emotional response or mood swings to different things that are happening around you. And so hypocortisol state, it is often resulting from prolonged stress, and it's characterized by burnout or exhaustion. Okay. And this state can lead to significant challenges in your daily life. It can affect your motivation, it can affect your cognitive function, and even your emotional well-being. And it also increases the vulnerability to autoimmune conditions and even mood disorders moving forward. So it's really important that if you are noticing these things, that you want to address them as soon as possible so it doesn't continue the cascade of chronic illness, fatigue, autoimmune, mood disorders, and this can go on and on. Alrighty. So let's look a little bit about the chronic disease connection. Okay. Chronic disease can lead to persistent high blood pressure, can cause irregular heart rhythms and inflammation in the blood vessels, can also increase your risk of heart disease and stroke moving forward. Then we look at the metabolic issues that can happen. And really, prolonged stress can cause insulin resistance because it has that effect on your cells. It has, due to inflammation, it can cause blood sugar to rise because the cell wall isn't as sensitive to the insulin that you're producing. And this can make it difficult to lose weight, potentially leading to type 2 diabetes because of that insulin desensitization. It also causes a bunch of thyroid function disorders, which can then affect overall metabolism. And so really assessing symptoms of thyroid issues is going to be a big focus as well when it comes to a lot of these chronic stress issues. Okay. And then also the stress can, I've said it before, is suppress immune function, leading to an increased susceptibility to different infections, delaying wound healing, along with other inflammatory issues. And it could potentially trigger autoimmune conditions where your immune system is in attacking your own body. And that's a whole nother list of issues that we would need to deal with at that point. Alrighty. But the impact of chronic disease and chronic stress can extend far beyond the daily discomforts, right? It plays a significant role in the development and progression of various chronic diseases. And it's linked to it's linked to accelerated aging at the cellular level. Remember that inflammation causes the cell to not be as sensitized to the different hormones and minerals and stuff going in and out of it. And that can really affect your DNA and your overall tissue health. So, what do we have to do to really identify these things and track these things? And that's recognizing the stress patterns that we have. Okay. Looking at yourself in a mirror and start to recognize what these stress patterns look like. So, first, looking at signs of hypercortisol in your body, it's physical tension and restlessness that you have in your body. You just can't seem to drop your shoulders and relax. You have racing thoughts. You're constantly anxious about things. And then digestion issues, things like irritable bowel or acid reflux can be part of this hypercortisol release that people get. Looking at signs of hypocortisol is really frequent energy crashes, right? Your body is just constantly fighting for that last little bit of energy, and you can't sustain through the activities that you really wanted to participate in. It can cause intense cravings for sugar and salt, which some of us may have even without that. So pay attention really to what's going on. It slows the recovery time for minor stresses where um, somebody cuts you off while you're driving, and it takes you hours to get over it rather than just dropping it and moving on. And then really helping to identify these patterns is one of the things that's going to help you to do that. So how do we recognize these different patterns? One thing is to track your symptoms daily, whether you get a book. I've got stuff in my private community where you can track symptoms, keep diaries, or you can just get a piece of paper, make a note in your phone. There's plenty of ways that you can jot down notes on a regular basis to be able to track the different patterns that you're feeling throughout the day. Map your energy levels. How did you feel when you woke up? How did you feel at lunchtime? How did you feel dinner time and bedtime? And track what those look like. Did you have enough energy? Did you crash at lunch and have to take a nap? Did you fall asleep at 5 o'clock in front of the TV and you missed dinner, you missed bedtime, and you woke up at 8, 9 o'clock, and now you can't sleep for the rest of the night? Write those things down so you understand where things have come from, where they're going, and then observe how you respond to specific stressful situations that you're in, right? Understanding your personal stress pattern is going to be crucial for effective management. And by recognizing whether you tend towards a hypercortisol or a hypocortisol state, can help you tailor your stress relief strategies for maximum impact. Okay. And so, really, let's take a look at what some of these different stress relief strategies are going to be like from a holistic approach, right? Let's talk a little bit about the internal stress, the external stress factors on your body, and then the possibilities that go beyond even this workshop, whether it's a support system, whether it is mind-body connections, whether it's lifestyle factors or environmental influences. And really, this introduces the practices like meditation or breathing exercises, really like box breathing. A lot of people have heard or read about this, where you take a deep breath in for 4 or 5 seconds, you hold it for 4 or 5 seconds, let it out for 4 or 5 seconds, and then pause, right? So doing that increases the pressure in your chest. That pressure stimulates the vagus nerve, which then is a calming sense on your body. There's also a lot of other things you can do. People who sing or who exercise regularly um, can mimic that same pressure on their chest, that vibration that stimulates that vagus nerve to help you calm down. And doing different things like this, modifying your lifestyle, increasing your exercise, eating healthy, hygiene, they all play a big part as stress relief strategies, to help your body deal with stress in a natural way. And so nutrition really plays a crucial role in that because you're not having to fight all the toxins that you're putting in your body, and it allows for more energy to do other things. And so managing environmental factors like exposure to noise and to light are going to be big things, and building a strong support system, family, friends. For some people, it might even be a therapist that they have to consult with um, in order to get through some of these stressful situations. Okay, so let's look a little bit more detailed at some of these stress things that we would want to do between hypercortisol and hypocortisol. Okay, so strategies for hypocortisol is really focused around finding the calm in the storm, because when you are in a hypercortisol state, it can be addicting, right? You have this influx of adrenaline and you just want to keep going, going, going because you're looking for that adrenaline high. But eventually it's going to lead to a crash. And so, really, we want to be looking at calming techniques in a hypercortisol state. So that can be things like deep breathing exercises and progressive relaxation throughout every day. We want to create a relaxing bedtime routine that can help to optimize our sleep environment. So, sleep hygiene is extremely important. And that'll be something that we'll talk about in a later podcast. But if you were to look up online, even just look up sleep strategies or sleep hygiene, you're going to get a whole list of things from turning off screens an hour before bed, changing your light bulbs to incandescent light bulbs versus LED. Could be putting blue blocker glasses on. Could be, taking a nice warm bath. Could be a couple of different herbs and things that you add at a time frame before bed. Could be calming exercises that you would do, like stretching and stuff like that before bed. Those are all different things that can help improve your sleep. Nutritional support. So focus on blood sugar balance, right? Anti-inflammatory foods are going to be really big when it comes to nutritional support. Eating whole food rather than processed foods or packaged foods are going to be super important when it comes to the nutritional status. And then the last thing that we really want to do is engage in exercises that are going to be calming and stress relieving for our body. So for some people, there's things like Tai Chi that you can do to really calm your body. You can do things like yoga, meditation, garden walks, forest walks, laying out on the ground and doing like grounding type exercises are going to be really big to help calm your body. You don't want to get into doing things like CrossFit where when you're already stressed, right? That's going to add more stress to your body. Not that it's bad, but at the right time is when you really want to do it. CrossFit can be great for people under certain conditions, but when you're in a hypercortisol state, you want to do things that are going to calm your body down. Okay. Next one is looking at the um, hypocortisol state, and this is for low cortisol and the strategies. And this is a little bit more difficult because you don't have the energy to do things. And so, really, we want to use energy enveloping planning to balance out the activities throughout the rest of our day, meaning plan what you're going to do so you have consistent energy to do it, right? So we want to work on energy management. The next thing we want to look at is a restorative practice, right? And that is going to incorporate gentle movements and natural therapies to gradually increase our energy, our presence throughout the day. And then the last piece is going to be nutritional support. And that's to focus on nutrient-dense foods to help maintain a stable blood sugar throughout the day. And then also incorporating some supplements that are going to reactivate our cortisol, help to sensitize our bodies to cortisol. And so for those of you who are in a hypocortisol state, the focus is on gentle restoration and gradual rebuilding of energy reserves. This includes careful energy management, restorative practices like natural therapies, and the nutritional support to provide the building blocks for recovery. Okay, so really building your personal stress management plan is going to be important in order to make sure that you're recovering well. And that's going to include things like your daily practices, right? Implementing a morning routine and conduct regular energy checks and establish an evening wind down ritual so that you are consistent about what you are doing, how you're doing it throughout the day, so that your body has the energy to move throughout the day without any problems. Okay, so that's daily practices. But then you also want to focus on weekly routines, right? Plan an exercise schedule. Schedule your social connections ahead of time so it's not compounded on your day. You can plan it into what's going on. And that can ensure that you have enough time um, to engage with everything in nature. Okay. And then the last thing is this emergency stress tool, right? We want to develop quick breathing techniques, practice grounding exercises, even maybe sleep with a grounding sheet, and then keep a list of support contacts handy in case you need that. Because creating a personal stress management plan involves incorporating daily practices, weekly practices, and that stress response toolkit. And so regularly tracking your progress throughout um, or through symptom monitoring, through energy logging, this can really help you refine your approaches over time. Okay, so what is the next step in all of this? And this is where we're going to start to get a little bit of fun because we're going to end up taking a quiz here in the next few minutes that's going to help you to identify where your stress is at in this current moment, right? So the key is to identify your pattern, right? Discover whether you tend towards a hypercortisol state or a hypocortisol state. And then once we get there, second one is to develop a strategy. And this is to receive tailored recommendations based off of your unique stress pattern. And then third is going to be monitor your progress. Right? We want to learn how to track your stress levels and adapt to your stress over time. So understanding your stress cortisol pattern is going to be crucial for effective stress management. And our assessment that we're going to be taking here is going to help you to identify where you're at currently in your stress state. And it's going to help to give us areas to focus on so that we can prioritize which actions we need to take. So the next steps in your stress management journey is going to be by completing the stress pattern quiz that we're going to take. And so taking this comprehensive stress pattern quiz is going to help you to resolve or it's going to help you receive immediate results. So then we can talk about personalized recommendations for your stress management moving forward. So right now I'm going to stop sharing